to the next talk of the symposium by Dr. Sumitra Parthasarathi ji. And let me give you the introduction to Sumitra Parthasarathi ji is an exponent of Kuchipudi dance tradition. She is a PhD she has done her PhD on Bhama Kalapam of Kuchipudi dance tradition. She is a professor at the Department of Kuchipudi Dance, University of Silicon, Andhra. Dr. Sumitra Veluri was awarded a PhD in Kuchipudi dance from Pottisri Ramulu Telugu University. The topic for the dissertation is the origin and development of Kuchipudi dance with special reference to Bhama Kalapam. She did her master's in human resources management from Andhra University and Kuchipudi dance from PS Telugu University respectively. She is qualified in the UGC NET exam in the year 1999 and awarded a senior fellowship in 2007. She has 40 published research articles in various reputed magazines and souvenirs, presented papers in several national and international seminars, received wide acclaim from the learned. A special mention needs to be made of workshops on Natya Shastra and Kuchipudi, which were well received by the knowledge seekers. Apart from working for electronic media, she is also visiting professor at the Telugu University and Krishna University. Recently, she joined as a faculty member Veda Samskriti Samiti. As a performing artist, choreographer, anchor, compeer, academician, and educator, her multifaceted career spanning over 3 decades is fruitful and rewarding. In recognition of her contribution to Indian dance, music, and literature, she was awarded with the title Natya Mayuri. Over to you, Dr. Sumitra Veluri.
Namaskaram to one and all. Thank you so much for giving me this wonderful opportunity, sir. Hope I am audible and visible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, first of all, I would like to thank Nagaraju Paturi Garu for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And I also thank Dr. Anupama Kailash, my colleague who has referred me to Dr. Nagaraj Garu for giving me this wonderful opportunity. I still wonder, I'm neither a Sanskrit scholar like the previous speakers, nor a Vedic scholar. So I really wonder, do I really fit into this particular forum or not? But yet, when I heard my previous speakers speaking about several topics on Samvada several topics related to Samvada, and when I try to compare the kind of dialogues, the Samvadas that we had in our Kuchipudi Kalapas and Yakshaganams, I thought, yes, I can also contribute a little to this particular symposium. So let me start with my presentation. I would like to read my paper, provided I'm given permission. So since morning, we understood the concepts of Samvada from different perspectives. So in Kuchipudi dance, there are several Samvada Daruvus, which can help to understand the various philosophies which are portrayed through different Kalapas and Yakshaganas. Now, before delving deep into the subject, let us understand the Swarupa of the Natya. So one must understand, because till now we have been studying about the Upanishads, the so-called Vedas and the Vedangas and the Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and different Puranas, wherein you quote different kinds of Samvadas or the delivery of a dialogue or a conversation, everything like that. So, but in Kuchipudi dance pertaining, we have Samvada Daruvus, which can help us to understand the various philosophies that were portrayed through the help of dance and the Samvada Daruvus. So, before delving into that, I would like to give you an understanding about the dance, what Bharata has told in his Natya Shastra. He says, Natat Sastram, Natat Silpam, Nasa Vidya, Nasa Kala, Naso Yogo, Natat Karma, Natyes Minyanna Drusyate. There is no science, no sculpture, no knowledge, no art, no yoga or creation, that which is not seen in the dance. Hence, just like the philosophy, the science of philosophy, dance also can enter into any kind of subject, any science, and we dwell deep into the subject, portraying through the help of the four kinds of abhinaya, that is angika, vachika, aharya, and the sattvika. Right. So through the vachika abhinaya, probably through the Samvada Daruvus, I can really interpret some of the contextual references which the previous speakers have described about. Right. So in Kuchipudi Yakshaganas and Kalapas, the Samvada Daruvus are treated a bit differently, because when we hear about the Samvada, as spoken and listed out by starting from Professor Jha and Paturi Garu and Shankar Rajaraman Garu and also Sundareshan Garu, the very treatment of Samvada in Kuchipudi Yakshaganas is a bit different from what you people have described. But yet, you find the root of these Samvadas in Vedic literature itself. Here, the Samvadas in Kuchipudi dance are treated with Rasanubhuti. And where in Vedic literature, you talk about the Brahmananda. After all, one must believe that, this Rasanubhuti is Brahmananda Sahodhara. That means they go parallel, along with the aesthetics and aesthetic presentation, just like a reader who reads the Vedas and, the Puranas and the Rig Vedic hymns, everything that you read and you enjoy that Brahmananda. This is a Drusya Kavya, wherein you see what exactly is being read when you read the Vedas, right? So, or Puranas, or Itihasas, whatever. That the Brahmananda, what you experience, here you experience the Rasananda through looking at the dance and listening to the lyrics. So, this is called as Drusya, Sravya style of Kavya. So, the roots of Samvada, as everyone has mentioned, can be traced back to Rig Veda. In Rig Vedic hymns, the beginnings of dramatic literature is also seen. The existence of professional dancer, who is also called as Nritu, in the Vedic society is established. This Nritu is the precursor for the classical actor, dancer, and the singer too. Singing, I'm telling, because we refer to Samaveda, you find the musical compositions, the swaras, swarasthanas, and everything. I'm not going into much details of the Samagana, the Archika, Gadika, and all these types. So when I said this Nritu is a precursor of a classical actor, dancer, and a singer, the dialogues between the Indra and the Marut, which you find in the 10th mandala of Rig Veda, and the Samvada between the Yama and Yami, and between the Pururava and Urvasi, which we see in the Rig Veda, these are all the predecessors of the proper drama, the dialogues and everything. So along with the dialogues between the two persons, dialogue with the self, that is the conversation with the self, is also present in both Vedic literature and the dance dramas. We call it as Atmagatam or Swagatam, the dialogue with the Swagatam, right? So, Natya is nothing but a drama. Nandikeshwara, a 3rd century writer, in his Abhinaya Darpana, has classified Natya into Natya, Nritta, and Nritya. So, according to him, when a Purva Kada, that which has already happened, is dramatized and presented, such dance is called as Natyam. Natyam tan natakam chaiva pujyam Purva Kadhayatam. This is the definition given by Nandikeshwara in his Abhinaya Darpana. Hence, Natya consists of a story, a music, dance, and drama. Drama obviously will have dialogues. So, these dialogues are called as Samvadas. Surprisingly, when I was listening to all my previous presenters, I just made a note of some of the points where they were talking about the theoretical aspects of Samvada. We find them so beautifully incorporated into the textual tradition and the practical tradition also. So when I look at the textual tradition, majority of the dance forms in India, starting from the Bharatanatyam from the southmost, Bharatanatyam, Kathakali, Mohiniyattam, Kuchipudi, and you can list out all 9 types of dance forms. They follow typically the two main treatises. One is Natya Shastra of Bharata Muni, and the second one is Abhinaya Darpana of Nandikeshwara. Interestingly, these two treatises start with a samvada or a dialogue or a conversation between the Devendra, who is again the divine personality from the Rig Veda, and Nandikeshwara. In case of Abhinaya Darpana, the dialogue starts, it is called as Nandikeshwara Devendra Samvadam or Devendra Nandikeshwara Samvadam, wherein Devendra is questioning or requesting Nandikeshwara to delineate all the principles or the tenets that are to be followed in order to win over another dancer called Natashekara. So then Nandikeshwara replies that, the treatise which I have written is in 6,000 verses or 4,000 verses called as Bharatarnava. So I will give you an abridged version which is called as Abhinaya Darpana. This is a dialogue between Indra and Nandikeshwara. And interestingly, another dialogue between the Lord Brahma and the Indra in the Natya Shastra, it says that, Devendra requests Mahendra Pramukhe Dever Yukta Kila Pitamaha Kridaniyakam Ichamo Drusyam Sravyancha Yad Bhavet. This is what Devendra asks Brahma. Can you create an art form, Krida, which is equivalent, Drusyam Sravyancha Yad Bhavet. So which can get rid of every pain and pleasure, pains of the human beings on the earth. Right? So, while asking this one, Brahma has meditated upon all these four Vedas and created the Panchama Veda, which is also called as Natya Veda. So, he has taken some of the elements from the Patya from the Rig Veda, music from Sama Veda, Rasa from Atharvana Veda, and Abhinaya from the Yajur Veda. So, he has taken these elements and created a Panchama Veda called Natya Veda. I was wondering while listening to Professor Jha, and he has explained about the philosophical systems, Adhyayana, Sravana, Chintana, and Paripaka. This is the notes I've written while Professor Jha was explaining. So how these concepts were taken into Natya Shastra so beautifully by Bharata is very, very interesting. Bharata says, just like a seeker in the philosophical system needs Adhyayana, Sravana, Chintana, and Paripaka to get the knowledge, to get acquainted with the knowledge, Bharata in Natya Shastra says, only those who are good at Grahana, Dharana, Jnana, and Prayoga are worth learning this particular dance. That means Grahana is nothing but, absorbing the things. Dharana is retention. One has to retain whatever that they have learned from the Guru. Jnana, one should have knowledge about whatever that they have retained in them, and then only he is eligible to prayoga, to perform whatever that he has learned from the Guru. So this is how the concepts were taken from the Nyaaya Shastra and applied into the dance. See, when you look at the dance alone, it may not give a complete picture about the kind of samvada that we are looking at present. But when you apply the theory that has been delineated by my previous speakers and try to understand Natya Shastra from its perspective, it draws parallels, right? So Professor Jha was also mentioning that in obtaining the knowledge, Padhartha Tattva Jnana, to attain that particular thing, after attaining the Padartha Tattva Jnana, he mentioned that Dukkha Janma Pravrutti Dosha. What is that the seeker is going to attain? He is going to attain Dukkha Janma Pravrutti Dosha. And so beautifully, this particular thing has been incorporated into Natya Shastra by Bharata. He says, the main characteristic feature of Natya is Dukkhartanam Sramartanam Sokartanam Tapasvinam Visranti Jananam Kale Natyametat Bhavishyati. What is the main goal or purpose, lakshya of dance? To eradicate the dukkha, srama, and soka for the tapasvina And Visranti Janane Kalam Natyam Etat Bhavishyati, to give them a kind of Visranti. So this dance would provide all these things. And I wonder, while talking about the Samvaada Daruvus, I heard Professor Shankar Rajaraman was talking about the Vaktrokti, the Chamatkara, which produces Hasya. When you look at the kind of dialogues that Satyabhama had with Madhavi, who is her Sakhi, so explicitly Madhavi appears like a Sakhi of Satyabhama, whom Satyabhama can take into confidence and, talk everything. Satyabhama's dialogues were very serious, but Madhavi, in order to produce Hasya, like, in a Chamatkara way, she talks. The conversation is like, Satyabhama and Madhavi, they talk to each other. Satyabhama says, Nanathudu Senkamu dharinchinnatuvanti vadamma. I'll give you the clues about my description about my husband. So you have to identify who he is and search for my husband. Right? So then Satyabhama says, Nanathudu Senkamu dharinchinnatuvanti vadamma. Madhavi knows that Sankam, Chakra, Gada, Padma is Vishnu's ornaments. But yet, to create a kind of Chamatkara and Hasya, Madhavi says, Senkamu dharinchinnatuvanti vadu Jangamadevara chinnavadu kadamma. When Satya says, my husband is the one who wears the conch, then Madhavi is telling that, the one who wears the conch is the Jangamadevara who comes in to ask for alms. Is he your husband? Then Satyabhama says, he's not the one. My husband is the one who wears the chakramu. Nanathudu chakramu dharinchinatuvanti vadamma. He is the one who wears the Vishnu chakra. Then Madhavi says, Chakramu dharinchinatuvanti vadu, is he not the potter? Kummari intivani chinnavadu kadamma. Is he not the potter who makes the pottery with the help of a wheel? So this is how this Chamatkara Vaktrokti took place in the conversation between Satyabhama and Madhavi. And one more interesting aspect in the Sambhashana between Satyabhama and Madhavi, the conversation, Professor Sundareshan just now said that he was talking about the prohibited questions. So this is also incorporated so beautifully in the conversation of Satyabhama and Madhavi. Madhavi asks Satyabhama, it's not easy for me to identify your husband unless you reveal his name. You just tell me his name so that I will know who he is and I can bring him to you. Since you said that, he left your palace, I can as well bring him home. Tell me your husband's name. Who is he? I'm not able to identify with all the kind of gurtulu that you are telling. All the signs that you are telling. He will wear a sankam, he will wear chakram, he will wear kundalalu. I don't want all these things. Just tell his name. Then Satyabhama says, just like Professor Sundareshan Garu has mentioned about the prohibited questions, Satyabhama says, Avani illali sabhalona adugaradu chettapatina vibhu peru cheparadu atani పేరేమిటంచు మీరడుగరాదు కాన గురుతు తెల్పెదను పూని వినుము. Satyabhama says, అవని ఇల్లాలి సభలోన అడుగరాదు. One should never question a lady in the midst of legendary people in the sabha. చెట్టబట్టిన విభు పేరు చెప్పరాదు. A lady, a woman should never utter her husband's name. And you are not supposed to ask this kind of questions. This is where I really felt when Professor Sundaresan was talking about. And he was also talking about the Sulabha Samvada, wherein, he was talking about the modality of questioning. Or, that I think I can really apply those modalities and, the techniques or the principles of questioning and conversation. I can apply to Sutradhara's conversation, wherein, Alpaksharam, Asandigham, all these things, one has to really make it very, very specific and, confined to the subject, not talking extra words and, if possible, make it very, very concise one. Precisely one should talk. and we has to omit whatever that one has to omit. There are so many principles that one has to learn in order to perform the role of Sutradhara. How beautiful it is to, bring in a blend between the Vedic literature, the concepts, and the Samvadas that were employed in the dance, Kuchipudi dance especially. I'm enjoying it, in fact. So, for the listeners' understanding, those who are not familiar with the Samvaada Daruvus of Kuchipudi, I just would like to give a brief introduction about the kind of Daruvus that we have. Daruvu is nothing but a song sung while dancing, and the term Daruvu is derived from the Sanskrit term Dhruva, which is one of the essential components of a Rupaka. So this is called as Dhruva Gana. Dhruva Gana, again, it has so many systems that, one should have sentences, Vakyas, Yati, Prasa, Tala, Laya. So when these things are constantly present, such song is called as Dhruva Gana. Dhruva means that which is constant and permanent. So this Yati, Prasa, Laya, Tala, Vakya, all these things should be present in a song. Such song is called as Dhruva Gana. Again, this Dhruva Gana is classified into several types, like, Pravesika, Akshepika, Prasadika, Naishkramika. These are the Dhruva Ganas, right? So this Dhruva, colloquially called as Daruvu. In a vernacular language, locally, we call it as Daruvu. So what is a Pravesa Daruvu? Pravesa Daruvu is a sung on an entry of a major character in a Kalapa or an Yakshagana. Similarly, Naishkramika Daruvu is sung on an exit of a particular character, major characters from the dais. Antar Daruvu is sung between two episodes, probably to change the mood. And the interesting Daruvu, the topic of today, is the Samvaada Daruvu. Samvada, as the Professor Jha has listed out so many meanings for the term Samvada, all those meanings can be employed and applied here into the Samvada Daruvus. And this Samvada Daruvus in a Rupaka or an Yakshagana can take place between the protagonist and the antagonist, the Nayaka and the Nayika, hero and the heroine, between two Nayikas, like in case of Rukmini and Satyabhama, between the superior and the inferior characters, we have Uttama, Madhyama and the Adhama characters in an Yakshagana. So that can take place between Uttama and Madhyama and Adhama Nayikas also, just like we were talking about the conversation between the Satyabhama and the Madhavi, who is an superior and the inferior characters in Bhamaka. Likewise, between any two people, two groups, as and when the situation in the Rupaka demands, this Samvada can take place. So, in Kuchipudi, Kalapas and Yakshaganas, these Samvadas we see in the form of a dialogue, just like I uttered a dialogue between Satya and Madhavi, Gayas, Avani Illali Sabhalo Nargaradu, Padyams, and the Darvus. So, what are the technical samvadas that took place in Kuchipudi, Bhamakalapam and Yakshaganas? Vaada, Jalpa, Vitanda, and Samvada. So, these are some of the Vadas that we have been discussing since morning, and almost all these Samvadas are adopted into Indian systems of discussion for reconciliation. So, we discuss them later as and when we go there. Today, I would like to explore the possibility of understanding the three systems of Vedanta, that is Dvaita, Visishtadvaita, and Advaita, through the technique of dance. How these systems of Vedanta were employed with the help of Samvadas. How do you infer to these systems of Vedanta? So the scope of study would be drawing a correlation between the teachings of Vedanta and the practice of dance by listing out some of the salient and significant features of both ancient systems of knowledge. For this, I have taken the Samvada Daruvus of Bhamakalapam, Gollakalapam, and a few Yakshaganas from the Kuchipudi repertoire. I think most of us, those who are present here, you might be knowing the story of Bhamakalapam or Parijataparanam. I don't think so that I need to go deep into the storyline. But yes, Gollakalapam, I just would like to give you outer line of this one. When a Brahmin who feels superior about his own caste system, he was encountered by Gollabhama questioning his superiority when all the human beings were born in the same way. So she questions his superiority, and also talks about the equality among the human beings without, having any discrimination between the race, caste, creed, the rich and the poor, the economic system and everything. This is basically fundamentally the outline of the Gollakalap. And Yakshaganas, because most of the Yakshaganas were drawn from the Puranas, like Bhakta Prahlada, Usha Paranyam. I think most of you are aware of this story, so I'm not describing the story here. In case if anybody needs any clarification in that particular story, you may raise the question. I am ready to help you out with the storyline, right? So my objective of this particular presentation is to reinforce that Raso Vai Saha, meaning the reading of Vedas, Puranas and Itihasas and practicing the Arsha Dharma, so-called Sanatana Dharma, help a devotee to experience the higher consciousness, right? Similarly, practicing and performing the Indian Shastriya dance, especially through the performance of Samvaada Daruvus, also constitutes all the components to realize the ultimate. To substantiate my statement, I would like to refer to Jaimineya Mahabharata, which says, Nrityatam gayatam chaiva nanavadya prakurvatam yatha santushyato keshavo dvairiti vivitham smritam. That means Lord Keshava is much more pleased when you dance and sing along with the orchestration more than the so-called the regular mundane worship. Hence, the dancers, musicians and the singers do also experience and realize the higher consciousness, that is the ultimate, that is the supreme. And we merge with the universal energy while dancing. After all, the Rasananda is described as the Brahmananda Sahodara, as I mentioned earlier. The Samvaada Daruvus are serious, yet they produce relevant rasa among the spectators, be it Srungara, Hasya, at times Veera, like Bhivatsa, all the Navarasas. Srungara, Hasya, Karuna, Raudra, Veera, Bhayanakaha, Bhivatsadbhata Santasya, Navanatye Rasasmritihi. Here we bring in the component of aesthetics also while experiencing the supreme. So it is a perfect blend of aesthetics and the Vedic literature ideas also. So the Vedic literature idea is to experience the ultimate, to have the Brahma Jnana, to understand the Brahma Jnana, right? So the goal of Kuchipudi dance form is undoubtedly entertainment, but along with it, there are multiple layers of goals like spirituality, spread of the Vedic literature, the Vedic concepts, and the spread of Hindu religion, so on, so on. So with this preamble, I shall now begin my presentation. We have entered into the subject now. So as I mentioned earlier that I would be focusing on the systems of Vedanta, Samvaada Daruvus and the related topics. We understood what are the Daruvus and the different kinds of Daruvus, right? So now I just would like to give you a brief introduction about the three systems of Vedanta and the philosophy a little bit, because we were talking about the philosophy also, the Darshana Shastra, the Nyaaya Shastra, Mimamsa, all these things. So how would we bring in correlation between these two subjects? So often philosophy is called as Darshana Shastra. Drishyate anena iti darshanam, which means beholding, seeing, viewing, etc.
Sumitra Garu,
Sir.
to cover more examples of Daruvus, maybe introduction to some basics like which school of Vedanta says what and all that probably can be avoided. Most of the audience probably are aware of all such basic things.
Okay.
Because to cover your actual examples of Daruvus, you might be in want of time at the end. In the end, if I come to you and say that the time is up and actual examples are not covered by that time,
okay, definitely, sir.
That may sound a little
inconvenient
to you at that
time. I
time.
understand. No problem. I understand. So, I am referring to Bhamakalapam directly then. So, the entire journey of Bhamakalapam, wherein, the Satyabhama starts with the showing of herself. See, in Bhamakalapam, you will see the self in the sense the individual's journey from the Dvaita philosophy, wherein she understands that there are two different entities, like Krishna is different and Satya is different. So from that of Dvaita philosophy, she moves on to the Visishtadvaita, wherein she totally surrenders herself and merges with the Krishna, culminating in the Advaita philosophy. I think in one sentence, I think I told the essence of Bhamakalapam. So this Bhamakalapam is an extraordinary one single example which dealt with all the three philosophies. So when you talk about the self, presenting the self, the dialogue between the Madhavi and the Satyabhama enters onto the stage saying that, Satyabhamane, Satyabhamane. She introduces herself saying that, she is the one and only Satyabhama, showcasing her pride about her wealth, her beauty and everything. And she addresses Madhavi saying that, Lalana Cheliya Maguva Sakhiya. So that is a conversation between Satyabhama and Madhavi. So the entire journey of Satyabhama starts when Madhavi questions Satyabhama that why is Krishna around you? Normally I see Krishna around you all the time. What happened to him? So where did he go? Why did he go? So all these questions were raised by Madhavi. Then Satyabhama says that, Oemma Madhavi, okanokka naadu Swami varu vachi nanu sarvalankara bhushitiralanu chesi tana paryankamuna kurchundabetti O Satyabhama neeve andagatteva leka nene andagadana ani adigene Oemma. Then Satya says, one fine day Krishna entered to my chamber and he bejeweled me with all the kinds of 7 weeks jewelry that I have. And, he just asked me, are you looking beautiful or am I handsome? Then Madhavi questions, what did you reply him? Satyabhama says, Adabuddhi aparabuddhi kanaka nene andagattanu ani antine Oyamma. Here you need to understand about the Upanishad saying that Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, Jivo Brahmaivana Paraha. This universe is an illusion and the Brahman and the Paramatma, here the Krishna, is the only reality. Without realizing this, so this is the communication that through this dialogue that Satyabhama character is conveying to the audience. One must understand through these Samvadas, what is it that Vedantic perspective that audience are receiving from the performer. So one must understand that he is the supreme reality and he is only the handsome person. He is only the beautiful one. And this Samvada clearly indicates that Satyabhama is suffering from the Arishad Vargas, that is, and also affected by the Maya. So when you look at the different kinds of poets, starting from Vedavyasa, Timmana, Siddhendra Yogi, all these people have given importance to the illusion Maya, how it has got affected Satyabhama, and how Satyabhama has tried herself for a reconciliation and to understand the truth that Krishna Paramatma is only the truth and she would like to merge with it. Okay. So when you try to apply the dialogical methodologies according to the Nyaaya Shastra, some of the Darvus, especially the Samvaada Darvus, are adopted Vaada, Samvaada, Jalpa, and Vitandavada. Further, I would say that a dialogue should be built not based on searching for unity and common truths, but on an axiological experience of the otherness also. So these kind of dialogues you will find between Satyabhama and the Krishna. So in order to prove the supremacy of the Krishna, to reveal the Paramatma Tattva, a beautiful Samvada Daru between Krishna and Satyabhama goes like this. Satyabhama questions Krishna, saying that, have you met her? Did you go to that lady's house? Did you meet Jambavati? Did you meet Rukmini? Did you go to her place? Why don't you take an oath and say that? So Krishna gives an oath for each and everything that, I'm not going to her place. I will take an oath like this. Then Satyabhama says that, you are the ultimate reality for that. How can I really believe you? Krishna says, Karpura gandhito kalayuta ledani nippulaina patteda. Satyabhama says, Karu chichu batti kabalinchu vaniki nippula naga yentara yentara yentara. She was referring to the Kandava Dahanam episode. Avanajakshito nenayuta ledani gohunantu konduna ye vela gohula kacheti vaniki gohula naga yentara yentara yentara. So explicitly it might refer to Krishna as a coward, but she is referring to the Gorakshana, where she was referring to the Govardhana Giridhari's episode. Likewise, in the Samvadas itself, you can bring in lot of philosophy into that and give the message to the audience. So the different kinds of Vadas that were employed for reconciliation, Samvada, as we were discussing the conversation, Samvada is a discussion between the teacher and student. We heard about the Bhagavad Gita and everything. So how we really come to a consensus between the Leelavati and the Prahlada Darvu, we can see a beautiful Samvada wherein Valadurayanna Vadalara Hari Bhakti Ilanu ni janakunaku anayamu Indire Chuduvairira. So Indiresa is a enemy to your father. Why do you want to go with the Hari Bhakti? Prahlada teaches Leelavati. Viduvajalane Vishnu Bhaktini Talli Pudamilo Janulella Chachuchu Putuchunduta Yerugave. To give the truth that Hari is the ultimate, who is the Sthitikaraka. To give that essence, Prahlada and the Leelavati conversation goes like this. Yenni cheppino vinavu kumara Ninu Jampudura Nagavinina Kannakadu Petulo Chura. So he said, Hiranyakashipu, your father said he is going to kill you. Prahlada says, Nanu Jampina Nagadharuni Viduvajala Anya Merugaka Unna Nato Chinni Vartalu Cheppake. See how beautifully in one single word, Chinni Vartalu Cheppakve. Do not bring in these tiny words to me, tiny information to me that he is going to kill me. Who is he to kill me? He is not the one who is going to kill me. Refer to Bhagavad Gita. He is the one who said that. He is the one who is the Karaka for everybody's birth and death. So it is ultimately the Vishnu. So this is how the Vedantic perspectives were brought in to educate the common masses through this Samvada Daruvus. Anyatha saranan nasti tvameva saranan mama tasmat karunya bhavena raksha raksha janardana. So this is how the Prahlada's dialogues do really help us to understand the Vedic dialogues. When we refer to Yama and Nachiketa dialogues to talk, where the discourse about the Brahmagyana, here you find the same kind of Brahmagyana which Prahlada is preaching to Leelavati. And when you look at the Vaada kind of discussion, where you talk about the Pramanas, okay, the Anumana, Pramana, Pratyaksha, all these things, to acquire, to find the logic, to find the right knowledge, the Vaada kind of study estimates the strengths and weaknesses and arguments of the either side, establishes one's own point while setting aside those of the opponent. So this is the basic structure of the Vaada kind of reconciliation. Here, the seeker is very, very sincere in knowing the truth. In Vaada, it is not necessary to establish one's own thesis, but it is enough to submit one's views for examination in order to ascertain the truth. This particular Vaada science is so beautifully incorporated into Gollakalapam, wherein there is a beautiful conversation between the Brahman and the Vallabhama. So the Brahman, showcasing his own superiority, he says, Yajana yajanadi akhila karmala neppudu eddi seyavaleno addi appude manasi salpu brahmamuka samudbhavamulaina brahmanulame Vallabhama. So with lots of pride, he says that, we do all the yajnas, yagas, the sacrificial rituals, ceremonies. So we belong to that superior cadre and we were born out of the Brahma's mukha. Then the Vallabhama questions, Talidandrula vallana kaliginatti tanuvulanniyu okate kada, ilalo me madikulamanu atisayamu tolaga ne telipeda venudi. She talks about the embryology, the mixture of the ovum and the sperm, how this entire process of embryology starts. So it is a common for all the human beings. Then how can you defend yourself, defend your supremacy? Then the Brahman says, Toluta Veda Satkarmalanu chesi Vani balamuche dvijalamai prastuti nondedam. So the Brahman says, yes, you are right. The birth is same for everyone. But we have become Dvija, we have taken the second birth with the help of performing the Veda Satkarma and other things, whatever I have narrated just now. Then Vallabhama questions again, Nirmalatma, a vihita nikila Satkarmamalanu Jaya, Vini menu kante nenu parudani, Madilona teliyani manujulu meeru. She says that, you are thinking that you are the one who have performed it. But you must realize that you are different from that particular soul who has performed all these things. So here we are talking about the Upanishadic Mahavakya, Tattvamasi. So if you can understand that you are the one who has done this, but this is not, and you are talking about the body here, the physical entity. I'm not talking about the physical entity. So who is that who has really performed it? You talk about that particular Atma, that particular entity, which is common for everyone. And she is establishing the universality here, right? So beautifully, these Vedic Samvadas were adopted into the Kuchipudi Samvadas. When you talk about the Jalpa method of Vaada, so this kind of Vaada can be seen in a Daruvus from Bhamakalapam when Satya questions the whereabouts of the Krishna. So she says that, she wants to establish that, he is not around Satyabhama. She has taken such pride that, Krishna moves around. But when Krishna left her chamber, she got so annoyed and she gets into Jalpa kind of Vaada with Krishna. And she stoops down to such a level, she even questions the genealogy of Krishna. She says, Nee talli nerugama, neeku channiyaka, parula kumpala drole bratuku manuchu. Nee tandri nerugama, neeti neemamuleka, pasigandula baliga kamsukiche. Nee anne nerugama, నీ అన్ననెరుగమా నిగిడి నాగలి బూని శరది గల్పగబూనె కరిపురంబు నీ చెల్లి నెరుగమా నెరజాడ సన్యాసిని మరులు గొల్పిన నీలవేణి అట్టి తల్లిదండ్రి గారాల పట్టిగావే మాటలి చెట చేతల చెట చేసి నను బీటబుచ్చి అచట చేరుట పరిపాటి అయ్యే ఒకరిననిన ఫలమేమి ఒకరిననిన ఫలమేమి నా వ్రాతయచు వ్రాతయచు వగతూ దేవి దండనార్హుండు ఎదుటనుండగా అపరాధ పరిశోధనలేలా. Here you will find a very clever Krishna who would not get into Samvada, real Jalpa or Vitandavada into Satyabhama, and totally he would like to come to a consensus. He would like to come to an understanding with the Satyabhama, saying that, I'm right in front of you. Why don't you combat me? Why do you want to take over the genealogy? So that's not fair. So this is the kind of Jalpa Samvada that we find in Bhamakalapam. Also we find it in Bhakta Prahlada, wherein you find a dialogue between Chanda, Amarka and the Prahlada. So Chanda and Amarka, when they were teaching about Lord Shiva, and that Prahlada has to worship only the Hiranyakashipu. Prahlada, he only talks about Hari, always Hari Bhakti. Cheppina reetiga cheppavadera చెప్పెనారదుడు నా చింత మీరా. So Chanda and Amarka were questioning, why are you not listening to us? Why are you not obeying us? So Prahlada says, why are you not hearing us? I heard Narada. He told me everything. There is nothing to learn. Tandri kannanu veru daivam evvadura. Is there any other god other than your father? Then Prahlada says, Vishnu Devudatanchu vinare meeru. Have you not heard about Lord Vishnu, who is the father of the entire universe? Bhayamunandaka palke padiye Bhayamunandaka manchu palke sauri. You are not even afraid in front of the gurus. Then Prahlada says, Hari has already told me not to fear. Siggu povunanu chintimpavemira. Are you not ashamed of yourself that you are answering us back? Cheri madhavu gulva chintayela. When I am praising the Almighty, why should I feel shy? Why should I be ashamed? Patti kottintu ee balala che ninnu kottu daityulanu mattu bettu Srihari. Prahlada is very, very confident that if you are ready to combat, Srihari is there to help me out. So this is the kind of a Vaada that you see between the Chanda Amarka and the Prahlada. And another kind of Vaada that we see is Vitandavada. Of course, this also we have been discussing since morning, and I don't want to give a description of Vitandavada. As you all know that, with the wrong convictions, one would like to defend themselves and get into an argument. So here they don't want to learn anything, or they lack of true knowledge, and they are deluded by their own wrong convictions. So if such people get into a conversation, if such people get into a dialogue, such dialogue is called as Vitandavada. So we see a classic example again between Lord Shiva and Banasura from Ushaparanayam, wherein Banasura got several boons from Lord Brahma that he is going to be the mightier one. So he would like to check his mightiness. Then he would go to Shiva and ask, Shankara, na sahasra bhuja saurya vijrumbana korvaleka, na pankaja garbha, Indra, Sura, Pannaga, Kinnera, Yakshuladiga, Janki Paripoyeri, Sahasra Vritti Ranamborpa, Evankanu Leru, Nive, na Ranavaibhava Saili Vatanchu Vedithin. Come and fight with me, because all the celestial beings like Yaksha, Kannera, Kinnera, Kimpurusha, Gandharvadi, All the people, they have ran away. So you are the only one to fight with me. And Shiva says, Nato yuddhamu cheyavalana korika neevu koraradu. Enduku koraradu. Look at this Vitandavada of Banasura. Neevu bhaktudevu kanaka, because you are my devotee, I am not ready to fight with you. So you are not supposed to ask me to fight with you. Bhaktuni korika tirchutaye kada tama kartavyamu. When you said I am your devotee, yes, I understand that you are supposed to protect me, and I also made you my guard in front of my house. But is it not your responsibility to give the boon? I mean, to fulfill the boon that you have, to fulfill the request of your devotee? Then Shiva says, Andhakasura Gajasurudu modalaina varu emainaro taluchukonu. Just recall what has happened to Gajasura, Andhakasura, all the other demon kings who fought with me. Just recollect before you ask this kind of request. Emairi? Emainara? Yamapuri kampitini. Vyagrasurani chilchi, uttariyamuga dharinchitini. Yaptiki techukonunu. Yennado bakka chikkina rakkasulanu. Jakkaduta kaadu. Sahastra bhujabalundudaina nannu jayimpumu. Nato yuddhamu jayim. So this kind of Vitandavada, looking at his physical strength, ignoring the fact that the Shiva is the destroyer, Layakaraka, Banasura gets into a Vitandat Vaada with the Lord Shiva. And you will find this kind of dialogues between Hiranyakashipu and the Prahlada also, because we all know that, Hiranyakashipu again, he doesn't believe in Hari, he searches for Hari, and he nowhere he finds Hari. So he is very confident that Hari is no more, Hari is nowhere, and he questions Prahlada. Dimbaka, Sarvastalamula Amboruha Netruda Ranchu, Vigula Visrambambuna Palike, Istambambunan Chupagalabe. He was very confident that, Prahlada cannot show Hari in that Stambam. Stambambunan Chupaka, Vagdambambulanu Diviteneni, Vodimbaka, Ninu Vadimpa, Vijrambamana, Sauri Minupajayune, Kadakun. Prahlada is very cool. So when Hiranyakashipu says that, if you fail to show me Lord Vishnu in this Stambam, see what I am going to do with you. Prahlada so coolly says that, Jale Vishnu, Stale Vishnu, Vishnu Stavara Jangamaha, Antar Vishnu, Bahir Vishnu, Sarvam Vishnu Mayam Jagat. So this is the kind of the conversation, Vitandavada from one of the participants, and the other person was so cool, and they gives answers to the person who is into the Vitandavada. And apart from these kind of Jalpa, Vaada, Samvada and Vitandavadas, we have several other Samvada Daruvus from Girija Kalyanam, as Professor Nagaraju Garu was mentioning the Girija Kalyanam in the morning. There is a beautiful conversation between Girija Kanya and the Brungi. When Parvati wanted to serve Lord Shiva, Brungi stops her entering into the Kailasa mountain. So the conversation goes.
Sumitra Garu, hope you are coming to the conclusion now.
Sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
2-3 more minutes.
Okay, sir. So the Parvati says, Abhyangana snana mamarajayatu devadevuni shramatiri pova talayanti nirvoya Taguna vasaram bemi ninduga nettipai undeganga. So like this, the Samvadas took place in almost all the Kalapas and the Yakshaganas. So what are the critical reflections that we see through these Samvadas in the dance? We see that through these Samvadas, the path to the devotee to realize the truth is made easy. It helps the devotee to overcome the Arishad Vargas. In Bhama Kalapam, we see that, the Bhama pining for Krishna, in other words, suffering from Kama. Krodha, when she becomes a Kanditanayaka and questions Krishna, that's nothing but Krodha. Lobha, when Madhavi asks for a nose pin, she initially refuses to give because she was suffering from the Lobha. Moha is, she wanted the Parijata Vriksha. So that is Lobha. Moha is Mada she's highly egoistic about her wealth and her beauty and everything. And Matsarya is she's jealous of Rukmini and her co-wives of Krishna. It's like this. When a character suffers from these Arishad Vargas, through a plot, all these samvadas are incorporated so beautifully, so that the characterization itself in the Yakshagana is molded so beautifully as navigated through different samvadas in order to realize the ultimate and get over these Arishad Vargas and attain the Brahmajnana. So from that of Advaita Bhava, Satyabhama totally surrenders to Krishna and practicing the Vishishtaadvaita, culminating in Advaita philosophy, wherein she merges into Krishna. She unites with the Krishna. So there you find in Bhama Kalapam. Similarly, in Gola Kalapam, you see that Brahman admits the universality of the human beings, accepting that there is no hierarchy in the caste system. In Bhakta Prahlada Yakshagana, Hiranyakashipu attains moksha. Likewise, any Yakshagana, any Kalapa serves as a tool of devotion. So all these fall under either the Navavidha Bhakti Margas were employed also in the Samvada format to explain the Bhagavata Purana episodes and stories. So in conclusion, I would say that Kuchipudi dance, which is a pinnacle of aesthetic pleasure, also helps for spiritual elevation of an individual. Art is to entertain, enlighten, and bring in awareness among the common masses also. Here, not only the artists, but also the audience are also enjoying this kind of awareness. Most of the Samvada Daruvus are having their roots in Vedic texts with all the components of Vedangas like Chandas, Nirukta, Vyakarana, and other Vedangas also. If time permits, maybe later we can discuss the other parts also. And I sincerely thank Mr. Pathuri Nagaraj Garu for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Hope I did a little justice to the topic that has given to me.
Definitely. There
thank you
was
so much,
certainly a very good glimpse of how Samvada Daruvus are Vedic in nature and how profound they are, how profoundly they communicate the Samvada nature of Vedic discussions in a very popularizing way, how they go to the common masses. Very well brought out, ma'am. Thank you very much.